Hello, John here at London Jacks. Welcome back to the workshop. Now today I'm going to be working on a 310 to Yuma rig, and I'm going to be working from an updated pattern by Will Gormley. Now Will made the original gun leather for that film, and he produced a whole set of patterns for all the popular Old West guns of the period. Now he's updated the patterns, he's added a couple of new features. He's also added a pattern for the Colt 1911 semi-automatic pistol, which is fantastic. I've already made that rig for a customer and it's available as a custom order on my website. With that said, thanks for watching and I'll get started right away. So I've got all the pieces and parts of the belt cut out. Got the main belt, the bullet lace, the buckle strap, the billet strap. Now the billet strap, I'm going to line it. It's going to be two pieces of 2mm leather glued and stitched together because I think it makes a much more durable billet strap. The one used in the movie was single ply, but I like to line all my billet straps. Gives it much more durability. Next I'm going to mark a spot 1/2 inch in on the end of the belt. Now that equates to the tip of the prong on the buckle. Now in this case the belt's going to be for somebody with a 47-inch hip. So I'm going to add an inch, and that spot there will measure out to 48 inches. Now I've determined that that's a good thing to add to a belt of this length, because when you wrap it round you lose a bit of the length. So I add an inch. Now that mark is going to equate to the center hole on the billet strap. Now in this case I've got 5 holes on the billet strap. So it's going to line up with the center hole. That will give 2 inches of adjustment either way, so allowing for a bit of expansion or contraction. Now the next thing I'm going to do on the belt itself is mark out the border lines for the decorative border. Now if this was a lined belt, the first groove would be the stitching groove for the liner, but in this case it's just decorative. So I mark out these spacings according to the pattern, and I usually use my stitching groover to put those lines in to form part of the border stamping detail. The leather I'm using for this gun rig is English Pictan steer hide. It's cut from double shoulders but a full weight, 10 to 12 ounces, 4.5 to 5mm thick. So now I'm going to use these 2 craft tool stamps to put in the border detail. This one is a V147 and this one is U858. Now I have cased this leather overnight, but I'm just going to give it another coat of water just to dampen it down so it takes a nice impression. Now there's going to be 30 bullet loops on this belt. So what I've done is I've measured between that mark there and this mark here. Now divide that in 2. In this case it's 23 inches. Make a mark in the middle, so that's going to be the center of the back of the belt. And I've got this little template guide which I can use to mark my stitching holes for the bullet loops. So I shall run 15 that way and 15 this way. That'll mean it'll be nice and evenly spaced across the back of the belt. Now I've got my holes marked out, and to make things a little bit quicker I'm going to use one of these punches. Now this is a 4-hole punch, so I basically do 4 and then add 1 to make 5. So I do that all the way along, and that will make the stitching holes for the bullet lace. Now I do hand stitch the bullet lace on. This is the way Will Gormley made it. He designed it, so that's the way I do it. Takes a little bit of time, but I think it's it's well worth it. Okay, so I punched out all the stitching holes. Next I'm going to put in the border stamping detail. So here you can see I'm starting to build the design up. I've marked out all the spaces, and what I do is I go around and put all the big impressions in and then fill in with the little ones. Just makes it a little bit quicker. You can eyeball it, but I find it's better to take the time, mark the spacings out with a pair of dividers. you just get a much better finish. So I just got a infill now with a small little stamp. By the way, if you need a decent mallet, this one's from Barry King, Sheridan, Wyoming. It's a 2-pound mallet or maul. I think they call it a maul. Fantastic bit of kit. They do them in various sizes as well. Okay, so there's the stamping detail all finished. I've got the bullet lace holes punched out. I've already edged this belt as well with a number 2 edger. So I've done both sides, taken off the hard corner. So the next process for this belt will be a coat of neats for oil. So here we have the bullet lace, and it's cut from 2mm leather. I've marked out the spacing where I want the holes to be, and I'm going to punch these out with this little tool. And I should say this belt's going to have 30 loops, and it's always good practice to double check how many loops you've marked on your lace, because there's nothing worse than getting all the way along with your stitching and you find that you're one short. So always check how many you've got marked out. Okay, so now I'm going to give it a coat of pure neats for oil. I've warmed this oil up so it will go in very nicely, and I like to do this because then I know it's got plenty of oil in the leather where it needs to be, right in the fibres. Now you don't want to put too much on because this leather soaks it up really well. Just a coat like that, and one on the back. And although this looks very dark, this oil will, over in the next few hours, soak in and even itself out in between all the fibres, and it will actually almost go back to the colour it was beforehand. Now, it's a nice coat there. So now I'm working on the billet strap. I'm going to line this piece. So this is 2 pieces of 2mm thick leather that's going to be glued together and sewn together. So that's going to make a nice, really durable billet strap, because that gets all the wear. So I'm using a contact cement to glue them together. Right, this should be ready now. Carefully align it. Put it down there. That is well and truly bonded. Now what I should do is, on my stitching machine, stitch from here all the way around to there. There we have one nicely stitched billet strap. And what I like to do is close up the stitches at the back. It's a step that's often overlooked, but it makes all the difference to a nice professionally made gun rig. And that just closes all the stitches up. So I've trimmed off the excess with my head knife. Now I'm just beveling it. This is a great little edging tool, by the way. It's available at Weaver Leather and it's by Horseshoe brand tools. The great thing about this is you've got multiple heads for it. So you've got different sizes. I think you get about 5 different sizes of tool there. Really impressed with that. It's plastic handle, but it really works very well, I have to say. They just slot in like that, and you've got 5 tools in one. Not very expensive, about 30 bucks. Well worth it though. Now's a good time to put my maker's mark in, so I've dampened this piece here, and I shall put a good impression of my London Jacks maker's mark. This is the buckle I'm going to use. It's a 1.5 inch brass rectangular buckle. It's English cast brass, made in England. So I've just cut the slot, and now what I shall do is I shall just bevel this area here. Take my edger and just run it around there. That makes it a lot easier for the buckle prong to run and ride in that slot. So here I have the holster cut out, ready. And the next stage is to transfer the tooling pattern to it, to the damp leather. I've let this case overnight. So I shall transfer that pattern to the leather, then I can cut it in with a swivel knife and do the various stampings and tooling required to get the pattern. There we are, there's the pattern transferred. Next phase is to cut it in with a swivel knife and finish off the design, stamp it all out. Run my edge around the outside. Now, next thing is I'm going to put my stitch line in. Now this is just a decorative groove. Because I want a nice deep groove in there where I'm going to have to stitch in a toe plug. So I'll run 2 passes on that one. Second line. Just like that. Now I'm going to use my swivel knife. This is a Barry King swivel knife, I should say. A nice thin blade on it. So now I'm carving in the lines using my swivel knife. Now the secret to doing this is keeping your knife stropped regularly so it's nice and sharp. Cut those lines in quite deep. And when that's completed, I'll be using a beveling tool to bevel all the way around to get make the pattern stand out. Now the whole process is going to take about 45 minutes, so I shall speed it up so that you can have a quicker look to see how it all comes together. Now I'm stamping in the detail using different tools. I'm in fact using 8 different tools to create this pattern. All these tools are available at tandyleather.com. I'll give you a closer look at those a bit later. And if you're interested in making this pattern yourself, if you go onto Will Gormley's website, he puts up pictures of the various stages of the process of tooling this particular holster. So that's very helpful, so you can see exactly how it should be. But I'm just going to carry on and get all this tooling done, and then I shall proceed to the next process. So there's a closer look at the tooling, all finished. I've added my maker's mark. I shall give this a coat of neat for oil now, let that soak in, then it's ready to be dyed. So here's a close-up look of all the various tools I'm using to create the design. I've got a couple of mule's feet. I've got 3 bevelers of various sizes, a veiner, a seeder, a backgrounder and a camouflage tool. All these are available at tandyleather.com, apart from one of the mule's feet, which is a Barry King tool. So there's the finished toe plug. Double thickness piece of leather. Nice deep stitching groove. Drainage hole. Ready for oil and dye and then to be sewn into the holster. Now this is going to be the hammer retainer. So I've just got to cut this one out. I'm using 2mm leather for this one. So there is the hammer retainer. I've finished that, I've edged it, punched the holes. So I shall oil that up. Ready for the dyeing process. So this is the band that goes around the pouch and attaches to the skirt. Now what I've got to do now is transfer these markings. There'll be a border stamping detail round here and in the middle. Then I'll edge it, burnish it, oil and dye it before final assembly. There's the holster band all stamped up and a coat of neat for oil. So now I have all the components of the belt, the billet strap, the buckle strap, the keeper, the bullet lace and the actual belt all oiled up, ready for the next process, which is dip dyeing. Well, that's it for part 1. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've found something useful that helps you in your leatherworking projects. If you've got any comments or questions, please drop them into the comments box below. I'll do my best to answer them. I shall be back in part 2 when I shall be finishing off this Hand of God rig. In the meantime, if you'd like to like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell, that way you'll get told whenever I push out a new video. I'll be back in part 2 as soon as I can. Thanks again for watching and bye for now.